we've seen over the last, unfortunately, year and a half or 2 years of COVID that, weight gain is not good for our overall health, for our immune systems. And now we've got more obese people around the world than underweight individuals, which is a little alarming. And, you point out in your research as well that, even of the 20 to 40% of people who are quote unquote normal weight or non-obese are actually holding on to more body fat than would be ideal. And this term is overfat. So could you, Lukas, walk us through, or Paul, this term and what the potential adverse effects are for health for the individuals who would be classified as overfat?
Sure. Well, I'll start in. And I think it all stems from the problem, Marc, that we're classifying fatness with weight on a scale. And, I've been as guilty as the next person in this, where you're jumping on the scale and you're having a look at what that number reads. But what could that number be? It could be anything. It could be water weight. It's going to change if you go to the toilet. It's a real blend of everything. It doesn't mean anything, unfortunately. It's really, or at least doesn't mean much. And that's the problem, is we're using things, you'll know BMI, right? Body mass index. People will be familiar with that measure. That's basically comparing your height with your weight. And if that weight number happens to be different than the levels say, then, well, we're going to put you and make you obese, or make you, you're going to be the obese category. Well, yeah. Marc, I'm an athlete, right? And I've been obese in the in the BMI scale before. I've been over 25, and I've been looking pretty ripped, mate. Yeah. So it really all sort of stems from that. And credit to our other colleague on the paper, Phil Maffdome. And Phil has really, I don't think he was the first, but he's written books on it and whatnot. And he's really, we're trying to change these terms. We shouldn't be calling us obese and overweight. It's overfat. And overfat really is any level of excess body fat that causes metabolic ill health ultimately. So it's impairing your health. Something's going wrong, because we know we can have a low weight, but too much fat, usually in the midriff. And something's going on there, where there's this whole inflammatory process going on, and we're not health. We're really limited in terms of our functions as humans. So it really all sort of stems from that. And this is unfortunately Phil and I estimate it's over 80% of the world's population actually may fall into this category, but it's inappropriately measured because we're using that darn scale.
Yeah, it's amazing how much noise there is with the scale. Something that, you realize when you work with weight making athletes or boxers or MMA fighters, because you could take off massive amounts of weight in 24 hours and put it back on. And like you said, that's not body fat. And, with the general population, they struggle because they're hanging on every move of the scale to dictate whether or not they're making the right choices. And of course, that's difficult because it takes a while for some of these good habits to actually take effect. And so, we know that shifting over to HIIT exercise, we know that exercise improves cardiorespiratory fitness. We know it improves a lot of these metabolic markers, even independent of weight loss. But how does HIIT in particular start to support some of those markers, some of those pathways for better, cardiovascular and metabolic health?
Well, if I can just continue on there, Lukas, yeah. I think the HIIT is, and again, I've got a whole business into this, and 150 publications in the area. So it's clearly of benefit. We shouldn't be throwing this away, because we're going to get to the study that kind of compared, what you can do to adjust your health ultimately is. But HIIT is really beneficial from that perspective, because it is having effects on the entire engine of the human body, right? From the heart muscle. We know that it's, when you're doing HIIT exercise appropriately, then, your whole cardiovascular system, your heart and your lungs, they're working hard and adapting accordingly, right? With larger stroke volumes, greater delivery of oxygenated blood to the working muscles. The working muscles are developing more mitochondria as a result of this. Martin Gabella's work has shown this. And again, as short as 6 30-second bouts done really, really hard can be very effective at adjusting this, which is great. So it's, I guess we're kind of getting to the main message. What we sort of feel is probably appropriate is use HIIT to hit these physiological targets, or these, if you're trying to improve your function as a human and your ability to kind of get through the day, that's very appropriate. We all need to be doing that. But what we'll get to this with the study is what we found is that it didn't really do too much to your over fatness, which and there was the diet was the more important factor here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to dive in. I like the little teaser there. It's great. But it is amazing how in this time-pressed society, and everyone's citing lack of time as a big issue with being able to train enough. And we know that 150 minutes per week recommendation, barely 20%. So 1 out of 5 people might be achieving that. And so how are we going to get more time efficient? And whether it's, attenuating oxidative stress or increasing antioxidant capacity, improving endothelial function, all these things that people struggle with when they come into clinic and they're 20 or 30 pounds overweight and they're slightly hypertensive and they're struggling. But one of the questions I still get asked a lot is around this, steady state, moderate, continuous exercise and HIIT when it comes to body composition changes in general in the literature, apart from the work here. What is it telling us? Is there one that's superior, or does it shake out to be the same in the long run?
I don't think we can't tease it out from this particular data set, Marc. I could only just sort of give you my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's that. I mean, all forms of exercise have their place. Again, one thing that we're really harping on as well in our course and business is that context is key. And it's so if we're talking to certain athletes and stuff, then all of these forms of exercise are going to be amazing, right? Polarized program where there are lots of exercises done at a low intensity, moderate intensity for mid-zone sort of athletes, and high intensity for all the gamut of team sport athletes and others that are healthy. The problem is that if you're unhealthy, and if we're talking to the larger general population that you mentioned not getting that dose, they might kind of already be coming in with these heightened unhealthy sort of profiles, right? Or cortisol levels are already sort of through the roof from their difficult lifestyles, right? And then you're throwing in some HIIT to this. Well, if that's all you've sort of got time to do, maybe it's good, but maybe, again, the context will totally depend. Unfortunately, we all want that blanket, do this. Unfortunately, I don't think you can really give a recommendation, you must do HIIT to lose weight. And we certainly can't find that from the study. Or we can't say that from the study. That didn't happen.
We'll jump into now. I'm going to circle back on the athlete front here as we get through the other side of the study. But interested now, Lukas, to tell us. Obviously, we know that nutrition and exercise are key pillars for improving health, improving body composition. So, can you walk us through the aim of the study and how you guys set things up?
Okay, no problem. You've mentioned exercise and diet as a key stuff about body mass management and maintenance. Maybe I would add behavioral therapy as well, because this is not just about how to exercise, which diet is better or worse, but the overfit participants usually struggle with how to keep it in everyday life.
Yeah, how to integrate it. It's so challenging, right?
Yeah, so something like something called behavioral therapy is a very important part. So I would base it on 3 pillars: exercise, diet, and these advices how to manage that.